according to the United States intelligence community, domestic terrorism from white supremacists is the most lethal terrorist threat in the homeland.
All right, guys. So yesterday there was a terrorist attack in New York City in the Brooklyn subway. And you probably wouldn't know that if you were paying attention to the mainstream liberal media, because they're not really talking about this as much as they should be, in my opinion, okay? And we're going to dive into what those reasons may or may not be. But I think this tragic event that happened here in New York City is a terrorist attack. I don't care what the mainstream liberal media says, right? But for whatever reason, it's not being characterized as that. As there was a guy by the name of Frank James, that's who authorities believe who did it, who allegedly set off smoke bombs in the Brooklyn subway system and then proceeded to open fire on the crowd during the morning rush, okay? Basically trying to kill as many people as possible. Now, at least 29 people have been shot. Some people have been sent to the hospital. Some people are suffering from smoke inhalation. There's all types of ramifications that have happened from this attack. Now, with that being said, I haven't seen any reports of anybody being killed, okay? Which, thank God for that, because it seemed like a situation where people could have easily been killed, okay? And the suspect is currently on the run, right? So I want to talk about this story because there's a whole lot of kind of interesting angles going on here that I want to get into. But before I get into that, I just want to let you guys know, if you like my channel, you want to support my channel, you can do so using the link in the description below. You can support the Patreon, you can support the PayPal, you can support the merch. There are multiple ways to support the channel if you would like to do so. So without further ado, let's go ahead and play this news clip that's going to give us more information about what happened during this terrorist attack so that you guys can get all the details you need before we get into this. Take a look.
We begin now with the search for the man that police hope can provide answers into yesterday's mass shooting on the subway at 36th Street Station in Brooklyn.
Police have released these photos of Frank James. He is considered a person of interest in the investigation.
Let's get you up to date right now on what we know so far. Our live team coverage begins with Eyewitness News reporter Candace McCowan, who's live in Sunset Park. Candace?
Well, Ken, Charlene, what you heard from Debbie appears to be correct, that the train service is restored here at 36th and 4th this morning. Now, investigators are anxious to get their hands on that suspect. They've been pushing out his picture. They're also combing through social media posts that he's made to try and understand exactly what his motivation was. But take a look at this picture once again in case you spot him out. 62-year-old Frank James from Wisconsin, who police are calling a person of interest this morning. They found his credit card and a key and a bag of items found at the scene, and quickly linked him to this U-Haul that was rented in Philadelphia and then discovered miles from the scene of the shooting in Gravesend. Police believe that he parked that van, then jumped on a Manhattan-bound N train during yesterday morning's commute. Police say the suspect, wearing a gas mask, set off 2 smoke bombs before opening fire. Investigators now working to determine his next move.
At this time, we still do not know the suspect's motivation. Clearly, this individual boarded the train and was intent on violence. There are some postings possibly connected to our person of interest where he mentions homelessness, he mentions New York, and he does mention Mayor Adams. And as a result of that, in an abundance of caution, we're going to tighten the mayor's security detail.
Yeah, and they're saying that that suspect fired 33 rounds. They found a handgun as well as 3 extended magazines, one of which they say jammed, which saved tons of lives here on the subway. There is now a $50,000 reward being offered for anyone who might turn over information that might lead to the arrest of Frank James.
All right, guys. So again, it seems like an act of God that nobody was killed, okay? Even though there was a lot of people that were shot. Again, thank God that as of right now, nobody has died, and I'm hoping and praying that that remains the case. Now, here's the thing. We got to get into the possible motivations of why this guy committed what I believe is an act of terror, and I have very good reason to believe that it was a terrorist attack, again, despite the fact that the New York Police Department is saying, oh, you know, it's not a terrorist attack.
I want to begin by assuring the public that there are currently no known explosive devices on our subway trains, and this is not being investigated as an act of terrorism at this time. We can also report that although this was a violent incident, reportedly we have no one with life-threatening injuries as a result of this case. This investigation is only hours old, so please note this information is subject to change.
Yeah, it should change, but I wouldn't hold my breath that it actually will change, because I'm telling you guys right now, as soon as this guy is caught, this story will disappear. It will be like it never happened, okay? Just like what happened in Waukesha when it comes to the guy, Daryl Brooks, who ran over a bunch of people at a Christmas parade, killed grandmas, okay? The mainstream liberal media literally stopped talking about it after they found out the race of the suspect. And unfortunately, I think the same thing is going to happen here, but we have to have a conversation about a trend that is occurring in our country that I've been warning people about time and time again, in regards to people becoming radicalized by this racial conversation going on in this country, particularly the victimization of certain races where you're saying that they're victims, and the demonization of other groups of people saying that, hey, they're superior and that they're oppressors and all this other stuff. That type of rhetoric has serious consequences, okay? And in my opinion, based off some videos that I've seen that I'm not going to play because I really don't want to get my channel yeeted for playing this guy's manifesto, basically, that seems to be what is going on here, okay? So instead of playing the video, I'm actually going to read some quotes of some of the things that he said from the New York Post in regards to his motivations for why he may have committed this attack. A troubled man who railed against Mayor Eric Adams and made bizarre, threatening rants on YouTube has been identified as a person of interest and now a suspect in the savage Brooklyn subway attack that injured at least 23 people Tuesday morning, officials said. Frank James, who warned last month that he was entering the danger zone, rented a U-Haul van tied to the N-train attack in Sunset Park and is being sought for questioning, police said at an evening briefing. Mr. Mayor, I'm a victim of your mental health program, James said in one lengthy video. I'm 63, now full of hate, full of anger, and full of bitterness. He also criticized the mayor for not doing more to combat homelessness. Quote, Eric Adams, what are you doing, brother? What's happening with this homeless situation? He said while referring to the subway. Every car I went to was loaded with homeless people. It was so bad, I couldn't even stand. I had to keep moving from car to car. Now, you guys remember back maybe a year ago, maybe a few months ago, when Andrew Yang, doing the New York City mayor race, he suggested, let's get homeless people just off the streets, right? Let's get them in a mental health asylum, right? Let's get them off the streets. And all the progressives was like, no, what are you talking about? You can't force homeless people to be off the streets, right? That's what he said. But it actually is a serious problem, okay? I've been in New York City and I've literally seen people shitting on the sidewalk, okay? Homeless people on the sidewalk in the middle of Manhattan, right? Times Square, okay? I mean, that's what happens there, right? But for whatever reason, progressives don't want to clean up their city. I don't understand. They like it being dirty with homeless people everywhere. I'm so glad it's not like that in the South, okay? Our homeless people, they're not out like that, okay? But they're out, but they ain't out like that. The NYPD said it was increasing security for Adams after police discovered the videos. Need to be increasing security in those subway stations. That's what they really need to be doing. James said in the videos that he had a diagnosed mental health illness and railed against what he called the horror show of the city's mental health services. Quote, what's going on in that place is violence, he said about a facility where he claimed to have received care. Not physical violence, he explained, but the kind of violence a child experiences in grade school that will make him go get a gun and shooting MFers. This guy's crazy. This guy's insane. The person of interest ranted about race issues and claimed that the Russian invasion of Ukraine was proof that black people were treated with disdain in society. Quote, these white MFers, this is what they do, he said. Ultimately, at the end of the day, they kill and commit genocide against each other. What do you think they're going to do to your black ass? In his rambling conspiracy theory, James claimed that a race war would follow the ongoing conflict in Europe. Quote, it's just a matter of time before these white MFers decide, hey, listen, enough is enough. These N-words got to go, he said. Okay, quote, what are you going to do? You're going to fight, and guess what? You're going to die. Because like President Vladimir Zelensky over in Ukraine, nobody has your back. The whole world is against you, and you're against your effing self. So why should you be alive again is the effing question. Why should a N-word be alive on this planet besides to pick cotton and crop sugarcane or tobacco? The only options James could find, he claimed, was to commit more violence and to become a criminal. And so the message to me is, I should have gotten a gun and just started shooting MFers, he said. Or I should have gotten some dope and started shooting or start hitting B words in the head, robbing old ladies. You know what the F it is. Okay, so this guy, again, is obviously cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, insane, radicalized. Okay, and how do individuals like him become radicalized? Because of race crusaders in this country that are basically saying the exact same things that this guy has been saying. Okay, but he's just more extreme about it, right? They've been saying that the white man is the oppressor, that, you know, the system is systemically racist against black folks. We've been held down. We, you know, are slaves. We're victims, all this other stuff. Okay. And they've been on and on and on about this stuff. And I've warned time and time and time again. I'm like, listen, the far left and their progressive rhetoric is going to radicalize people. Okay. It's going to make people think that black people in this country got it so bad that we don't have a choice but to commit acts of violence like this. Okay. And I've been warning about this. While the FBI and Joe Biden and the progressives have been warning about so-called white nationalism, right, and white domestic terrorism, which I'm not saying that, you know, there's no domestic terrorist attacks that are committed by white people. Obviously they are. But let's not act like it doesn't happen on both sides, okay, because it does. It does. There are people who are black that have been radicalized by this racial rhetoric. I've warned about this. I've said this is what it leads to, right? But no. If you speak out against that, if you say, no, I don't necessarily know about this radical rhetoric that is spewing hate and division in this country, oh, you're a sellout. You're a Tom, right? You sticking up for the white man. When the reality is, I'm actually sticking up for innocent people who get hurt by this stuff. I'm trying to actually make this country less divisive and less radicalized, okay? That's actually what I'm trying to do. In order to do that, you can't sit here and racialize everything and spew hateful rhetoric that we've seen the left spew, okay? Now, besides the race stuff, obviously he has a problem with Eric Adams, okay, and the mental health services in New York City, right? So that also could be a motivation as well, too. But I think more than anything, this whole kind of black nationalist thing that he has going on is probably the primary motivation, if I had to guess, based off what we know right now. Now, is what I'm saying probably premature? Maybe, but I don't think so, considering the things that we know, that we have on video, okay? So with that being said, let's actually move on here to another story that is related to this, that seems to have kind of laid the groundwork for something like this to happen, considering how New York wanted to actually beef up the security and put more cops in the New York City subways, but the progressives said, nah, we don't need more cops there, right? We don't need it there. It's a waste of money. Lo and behold, look what is happening in New York City, particularly in the subways, okay? So let's actually read about this, because I think this is an important story as well, too. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Democrat from New York, along with other members of Congress from New York, voiced their opposition to a 2019 proposal which would have placed 500 additional Metropolitan Transportation Authority officers in New York City subways. In a letter sent to then Governor Andrew Cuomo, the lawmakers addressed the MTA's plans to hire additional cops and instead said that funding should be spent on, quote, desperately needed resources like subway, bus, maintenance, and service improvements, as well as protecting riders and transit workers from assault rather than in the over-policing of our communities. So basically what they're saying is that we don't need to fund the police, okay? We don't need to fund the police, right? That's what they're saying. At the time, lawmakers said the plan was, quote, not cost effective, and cited statistics from the New York Police Department as they claim major felonies committed on the subway have decreased. The subway system is now safer than before, they wrote. In addition, the legislators said it was imperative to reconsider the use of operating funds to pay for additional officers and to find alternative streams of revenue to avert a larger budget crisis. So, you know, it's crazy how all these people become fiscal conservatives when it comes to police, when it comes to protection. You know, the one thing that I actually really don't mind spending money on, right, which is police and protection, all of a sudden progressives are fiscal conservatives. Ain't it funny how that works? Noting a significant uptick in assaults on bus and subway workers, the lawmakers told Cuomo that the plan would impact those living in poverty and remind them of the historic racial discrepancies in enforcement and the way communities of color, both MTA riders and workers, bear the brunt of over-policing. Okay, so this is them basically saying that, funding more police is racist. Okay, it's going to disproportionately impact so-called people of color. Okay, this is what they're saying. So, I'm telling you guys, progressives are living in a pipe dream, man. They really are. They live in cuckoo for Cocoa Puff world. They think everything is rainbows and roses. They don't actually live in reality. And I don't understand how anybody can vote for these individuals who are clearly not in reality. Okay? Arresting hardworking people who cannot afford a $2.75 fare is in effect the criminalization of poverty, the lawmakers claim in the letter. Following a shooting, which injured at least 29 individuals at a Brooklyn subway station on Tuesday morning, Ocasio-Cortez said she was devastated. Yeah, I'm sure you are. Right, I'm sure you are. Quote, "We're devastated to see what happened in Brooklyn today," she wrote in a tweet, thinking of and praying for those injured and their loved ones. Yeah, she should have been thinking of them when she railed against this proposal to make the subway system safer and to prevent these type of things from happening. Representative Jerry Nadler, Democrat from New York, also signed a letter offering his thoughts in the aftermath of the shooting, writing in a tweet that he was horrified. Democrats are only horrified when it happens. They're not horrified at the thought of it happening and doing what they need to do to prevent it. They're only horrified after it happens. "I am horrified by the attack in Brooklyn," he wrote. "I am closely monitoring the situation and I am in communication with the FBI. My thoughts are with the victims and first responders." During an interview Tuesday evening, New York City Mayor Eric Adams said residents in the city will see a visible police presence in subways after the shooting as he attempted to comfort those who rely on trains for transportation throughout the city. In addition to Ocasio-Cortez and Nadler, the letter to Cuomo was signed by former Representative Jose Serrano, Democrat in New York, and New York State Senators Michael Guerreros, Luis Sepulveda, Jessica Ramos, Julia Salazar, and Alexandra Biaggi. Okay, so these people really don't care, right? Again, they're only horrified after it happens because let's be honest, AOC doesn't ride the subway. Okay, she drives a Tesla everywhere she goes. Okay, and she's escorted by security everywhere she goes. So she doesn't care about funding police. She doesn't care about having security for those people that have to use the public transportation services. She doesn't give a damn, right? But to be fair to the sane New York politicians, I do believe that over the last few years or so, they have increased the presence of police in these subway stations despite progressive opposition. So that just means that, at this point, with crime on an uptick, they need to do more, right? They need more police, not less. They still need more, okay? More has to be done. But, when it comes to some of these Democrats and stuff, the headline is that, well, we're putting more police there. But sometimes, when you actually look into it, they're also sending police and, social workers and, they're doing the whole progressive thing when it comes to policing and trying to prevent this stuff. So you really never know. But regardless, there definitely needs to be more of a police presence, not less. So again, when they come out here and they say this stuff, to me, it's empty words. Because people who actually really care think about these lives before they're actually lost, and they do what they got to do to prevent these things from happening in the first place, right? So with that being said, stay tuned to see what happens with this. My gut feeling is, again, like the Waukesha thing, once this guy is caught, nobody will talk about this. It will go away, but we have to have a serious conversation about the radicalization of individuals in this country that is happening because of the progressive rhetoric on the left. It's something I've been warning about for a long time, and unfortunately, we're seeing the consequences of it. But hey, according to the Democrats and the FBI and the liberal establishment, it's only white domestic terrorism we need to worry about here. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.